Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I am in a beautiful place in Mexico, just north of Puerto Vallarta, near the town of Sajeela. I am teaching a workshop here, and I've been coming here for about 10 years. This place, it's called Haramara, is one of the most amazing creations. It makes it possible for me to do the work I do, and I wanted to sit down with Sajeela, who has created this amazing place. And I help people find their authenticity, and it's in leaning into this, in the process of making things, that we discover who we are, and we fulfill our purpose, and we make amazing creations, whether it's a painting, a book, whatever the thing is. But what Sajeela has made here is an entire place, and a beautiful retreat center, and I felt this place many years ago, and as I've been coming year after year, I've just discovered that this was not by accident, and there was a huge there's a whole intention here, and it's remarkable. So I know you're going to love this conversation. Sajeela, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
It's so great. So first locate us, because and then let's dive into what this is exactly and the feeling of it. But I mean, just listening to you, I think people will start to get the feeling of this place. But where are we located exactly?
Well, we are in the state of Nayarit. It's the smallest state in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came here like 25 years ago, nobody really knew this place existed. Nayarit was not even part of the whole picture of Mexico because it was so tiny and so irrelevant. But when I first came here with the purpose of finding a piece of land to create a retreat center, because I had one in Tulum and I lost it in a hurricane, and I didn't want to go back there ever. So I started finding places where I could create something that I always felt it was my passion. And when I first came here and I saw this incredible Sierra Madre, because we're right in front of the Sierra Madre and a beautiful range of mountains called Sierra de Vallejo. And it's untouched. It's a deep jungle. In fact, it's one of the least touched jungles until you get to the Amazons. And it's never been inhabited because there was nothing here. Wow. So that's exactly where I found myself 25 years ago, in the tiny little town where there was not even electricity. There was one phone, and only the fishermen lived there. And they had all this incredible jungle and beaches that I was completely in love with in the minute I stepped in here.
And you were what you wanted to make, and transformation, and a place where people can come. I mean, what you've created and what happens here is that people can feel themselves more. And I don't know I know you can describe that better, but that was the intent. And how did this come about? How did that, you wanted to do that? And how did you know to do this, or what drew you to want to make this?
Well, I was a musician originally. I was studying in England. I studied piano in Oxford. And from there, I read a book of a teacher. So I decided to leave everything and go to India. And I stayed in India for 13 years. Mm-hmm. And by being in India, and my life shifted radically. So when I left 13 years later, I could not go back to live a normal life, or to society, or to create a life that was, for me, completely absurd.
Was it? So what was sort of the couple of the learnings in India? And I've been there and I understand, but I mean, it brings clarity, that place. But what?
Well, first, was the meditation, the therapeutic processes that I did there, and the natural medicine, and the respect for who we are, and basically to find really why we're here, and why meditate, and why do therapy. And that answered a lot of my questions. Like, I never felt at home And then when I went to India, I really started feeling home because I started finding myself probably. And India had like a big picture for all of us, but in those days, which was 78, I was 23 years old, and India was another reality for Western world. And that really shifted my life, you know. And after all those years, when I had to come back, I just find myself, I had nothing. I didn't have an identity. I didn't have a bank account. I just couldn't place myself in the world to do what? And the only thing I could think of was create a place where I could live, first of all, and that I could find my way now in the West, the way I found myself in the East.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
Yes.
that's what started happening. And this happened in Tulum, when Tulum didn't exist in the map of the world. There was nothing there. I mean, the pyramids, you could just walk into Tulum pyramids and sleep on top of them and walk the beaches without having people there. So I created this tiny little place where amazing people started coming, you know, like John Halifax, Groff, a lot of incredible yoga teachers, people that were was the beginning of doing retreats. I actually, without knowing, I started doing retreats before everybody started creating retreats places, because I believed I wanted probably to create my own retreat.
Yeah. And it's so common that we find our way first for ourselves, and then that answers for so many. This was how it is for what I'm teaching. It was really just notes to myself. It turned out that it was helpful, right?
Yeah.
So I could so see how, like, you couldn't fit in when you came back. It had to have more meaning.
It had to have more meaning, you know. I would have died of sadness in another reality that was not my reality.
I so understand that piece. I didn't know that you spent all that time in India. That makes so much sense. So how long did you, so you kind of started really in Tulum.
I started in Tulum. It was incredibly successful for 5 years. Then a hurricane hit, and it destroyed the place. And there was a lot of mafia. It was not a very clear place energetically, and I felt insecure. So I came to the Pacific because I was born in Mexico City. So I'm very familiar with the Pacific coast. So I came here, I found a house, and I walked on the beach, and I found my beach, and I suddenly saw this amazing piece of jungle, and I walked up, and I started kind of finding this amazing paradise, and I fell in love with it, and I said, this is it. I'm doing it here.
Wow.
I can't believe it now, you know?
Yeah.
It was like this, but it was literally like that.
And so you were walking on the beach, and then you saw this land was for sale?
No.
No, you.
I walked on the beach. There was these big rocks. I stepped on those rocks, sat on those rocks, and I looked up, and I walked up the little paths, and I saw the first platform where the spa is now, and then the second one where I lived, and that was it. And you couldn't walk any further because it was so dense, you could not walk in.
Oh my God.
But I found out, and the owner was a man from Guadalajara. This 12 acres was already bought by someone who, in those days, Guadalajara had the idea that this would be an investment place. So I went and knocked on his door, literally, and said, I want to buy your property.
Oh my goodness. So it wasn't even for
It
sale.
wasn't even for sale, and the man said, no, it's not for sale. And I went back, and I came back here, and I found all the pieces of land, but I thought, no, it has to be this one. And if it's not this one, I'm not doing it. Because there was something here that I felt, and also the way the land is built and made,
Yes,
and the depth of the jungle.
Yes.
And I felt this is the place, you know. And if it's not here, I'm not doing anything. So
Amazing. And on the first night of a workshop, Sajeela shares, you know, a little bit of how this place came to be, and how, and it's just so great because it wasn't you created it in a very low tech way, feeling first, finding your way, letting the land almost tell you what it needed here.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because that's beautiful how that all happened.
Once I bought the land, of course I had no money left because all the profit that I had from the last one and the insurance from the hurricane, all that I put it into this property and another property that I have next door. And I had no money left. So I thought I would create this place within 3 years, but no. So I had an astrologer that read my chart and he said, you'll do it, but you have to be very, very patient. And very, very patient meant 7 years of waiting. But I came and I built my little house below. I've built 3 casitas with a dry toilet and a shower. And by living here for those almost 7 years, it really gave me the idea and the feeling and the understanding, what can I do here without disturbing it? And because those 7 years I was so happy. I felt so secure. And nature was so incredibly beautiful and feminine and easy. And it was just like an incredible way of healing myself from the loss
Yes.
of the other place. And it gave me a lot of insight that if I could be happy living so simple, I had to create something very simple too, because I like things that are comfortable. I like comfort, I like beauty, I like simplicity, but I don't like to suffer and I don't like to be intense. So I come from a family that are very sophisticated. So I had that inbuilt in me. So I wanted to create something that people would also love, but I had to love it myself and feel comfortable myself.
Yes.
And that's how the simplicity of the place happened to become what this is now.
Yeah.
Which is for me very sophisticated, but incredibly simple. And that's what I feel that's who I am really, I'm a simple person.
And what you come in contact with here, the paths that you walk that are swept, but they're not, cemented in. It's just it's the dirt, but it's hard packed, but they're swept, so they're clean, and you feel them, and it's all candles mostly, kerosene light, and so there's a sensitivity, that there's an artistry to how things are lit, which is so beautiful. And I'm very visual, so I'm very sensitive to that. I can't stand. I won't go into Safeway just because of the lighting.
Yes.
But so, neuroaesthetics and all the ways you can connect to the body, to the soul of somebody through visual, through smell, through sound, to textures. That's not an accident, and
No.
that is a beautiful thing about this place, that you've scaled it, but you've kept all those, and it's amazing. It reminds me, and I can speak for my students here. There's something that happens when you're in beauty. I don't know. It brings you back to yourself a little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Could you
Completely,
speak to that? Because that's kind of, I'm not even sure that makes sense, but I know it.
No, it makes sense because comfort is one thing in luxury, but it separates us from ourselves because we're not so concrete, We're very pliable, we're soft, we're sensitive. And when you can create a place with texture, with natural materials, with no invasiveness of lights, with sounds that are so incredibly beautiful here,
Yeah.
And by living so simply for these 7 years, showed me that I don't want to bring electricity. I don't want to have music all over the place. I want to be able to keep feeling the earth every time I walk. Because when I walked the land at that time, there was only the animal paths. And that was the only way you could cross up and down the hill. And I felt secure walking barefoot. And I felt better without any shoes on. or tennis.
Yes, yes.
So I learned again to be very, very on the ground, and how nature and the land really showed me how to do this. I had no idea. I had no idea of designing or building or nada. But by living here, going through the rainy season, going through the heat, it just taught me what I needed to be comfortable and happy and in total bliss.
Yes.
And it was really the most amazing experience, because if I would have had the money, this place would not be like this.
No, right.
But by being forced to be here,
yes.
so I knew where the meditation rooms would be. I knew where the casitas had to go. I knew where I wanted to eat and look at. So the time of 7 years
Yes.
gave me all this experience.
Yes.
And
I love how I call it finding your way as you go. It's how I make art, and it's how I try to live, and it's all part of the same thing. But you literally, you lived here, and that's what made it. You followed what you learned and what you felt, and then you did something, and then you built more, and then that felt a certain way, and it unfolded. I didn't realize that over 7 years. That's amazing.
like, for instance, the showers, I had an outdoor shower for 7 years. And with this weather, I felt there's no way I can enclose us in a shower or in a bathroom. So all the bathrooms are exposed to the jungle. So you have the birds right there. Everything is close to you, but there's a coziness, a boundary. And that I felt, it really brings you back to our nature. And my feeling now is that we're going so far away from our nature, and that's what's destroying us. And what I feel with the people that come here is that they because we're like this, we're humans, we're nature, we come from this.
Right.
So as soon as we get in touch with it, immediately something starts transforming ourselves, because that's who we are.
Yes.
And it's very simple,
Yes.
And that's my learning for those 7 years, by living with a dry toilet, and in silence, and with candles, and with no refrigeration. And so everything was meant to be like this, I feel. And a seer at that time, told me, this place is happening because existence wants this to happen. Yeah. And I really see that I didn't do this place, It really happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And I listened, and I follow my feelings, and I follow what I loved, and the respect for this, and that made it happen, and this is a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, and amazing things. And it's part of my teaching that is to connect with what is meaningful, what we love. I mean, you saying, I just followed what I love. It's a profound approach to life.
Yeah.
But you're given assistance, and I completely understand that feeling that you didn't come from the place of wanting to create this retreat center and you're going to have the best one in the world. It's like this needed, the planet needed this place. I mean, it's really, truly it is a place where people come and refine themselves, a little bit or a lot, I what's interesting to me is that I felt this knowing. I couldn't put words to it, but when I started here, it's not really an art place. It's more of a yoga place. And I just thought, I need people to make art here because this is going to be easier for people. If we can get people more connected to who they are truly, that then their art, which is an expression of that, their best art, that will come easier. And it's really, truly the case.
Yes. And also, I never felt this would be a yoga place. It just happened because a lot of yoga was happening 20 years ago. But I'm an artist, I'm a musician. I love music, and I wanted also musicians. I wanted poetry, writers, artists, and that's why your group, it just, every time I go by and see everybody painting, and in the night, and I could come down here at 12 o'clock at night and there's 2-3 people painting. I mean, it just fills my heart because it brings us together.
Yeah.
Art brings us together. No, there's nothing in between.
Yes.
Same as music, there's nothing in between.
Yes.
And this is, for me, an incredible proof that existence is sacred, and we are sacred, and we have to go back to that. Because that's what makes us happy,
Yes.
really, and gives us peace.
Yes. It is so needed
It is so neat.
now.
Yes,
Oh my God.
yes,
You know, you talk about energy and, and it's, or just, yeah, the frequency that is here. And could you sort of, how do you, I know you understand this, and people come here and they can feel the energy of all the people that help here, for example, the staff, and they can feel each other's energy more. And I don't know, it's just it's centered upon and is derived from your initial come from, your energy and the intention and that openness. Yeah, that's a kind of a miracle to me. I can see it in a painting almost. Like somebody can look at a painting that I have made, that I have a feeling of what I want it to be, or the feeling that I want in the work, and somebody can look at it, and it's an abstract painting, and they can feel something. They feel similar. They can pick that up. That's a kind of amazing. But when you have a place that 50 people come and there's casitas and food, and it's reflected in the massages and the paths and the lighting, and just was it hard to get people to share that vision, or did you just gather similar energy around you and it grew? Like how do you do it? How does this made? I mean, what would you say? It's kind of amazing.
it's amazing. I think there was already an energy field here. I really feel there was something very special, because why at that time I could have bought here and there and there and there, and I could have bought so many other places. And no, I felt it's here for some reason, because every time I walked in here, through the jungle, up to the paths, I felt something. I felt something in peace. There was no fear. I lived here for 7 years, many times by myself, and I never felt afraid of anything. And there was something already, spirit, that I felt, this is really unique. And then the right people started coming. I mean, Chuck, who was an incredible human being, and he's the one who helped me build the whole place, because he understood me, and he was a very practical man. So he could understand when I was talking to him how I wanted it. And then Chuck attracted someone else, and then I started meeting the artisans of the area. And somehow people started appearing, and the right people appeared. And we built this place in 13 months, after 7 years of planning it here and understanding where I want to do each casita. Within 13 months, I built the whole place. And this is, for me, a miracle. And we did it by hand. We never brought machines.
Yeah, you need no power tools.
We were like 15 people doing this, not more than that. We had like 4 masons, like maybe 12 palaperos.
And the palaperos, describe, it's all the shelters are all made. They're traditional native people shelters. Tell us about them, because they're amazing.
I went to the Sierra. There was a town called El Tigre, the tiger, where all these artisans come from. And they lived in these thatched roofs with adobe houses. Simple. And I said, this is exactly what I want. So we brought them here. We showed them the places. And I tell you, if you see these constructions, there was no way we could bring a car to where the casitas are. There were 2 spots. They would carry them from up here or from down there, carrying them in their shoulders.
Wow.
Like 20 meters posts, this thick, heavy, super incredible wood. And I just showed them the location, showed them the size I wanted from the room. And of course, Chuck was there, who was the builder. And we first built all the roofs, which is exactly what they did in the village. That's how they built their village. So I said, let's do it exactly how you do it. So we built, at that time, there were only 13 casitas. We built all the roofs, and then we started with the restaurant.
Yes.
And the restaurant, we did have to carve into the mountain by hand, all of it. And then when they set up these posts, I mean, you could die just to watch these guys doing this. And then the restaurant went up. And this was like unbelievable what these people can do, you know?
And they are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything's just tied together. All the wood is tied together. There's no, whatever, nails or.
They use like some kind of they use this cuamecate is called, which grows here. They cut it, and it's like pliable. So they tie it together, and with time it becomes like iron. It just dries out. And they use in certain places this huge kind of iron. But it's very not technologically kind of thought. That's what they use.
This is what they've always done, yeah.
That's what always done. And then we cemented the horcones, that's how they're called, the posts. They're cemented deep down into the ground, and then the wood comes down into the cement, and it's held in there. So, I mean, these casitas have been out 19 years, and we had to reinforce them a little bit, but they are incredibly solid. And we have had 5 hurricanes come by here. Nothing moved.
And the roofs are, I mean, they're thatched, right? I mean,
they're
like,
thatched.
But do you have to replace those?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you do. So
we need to replace them like every 6-7 years.
Wow,
but the wood doesn't. The wood stays there forever. It's super hard, incredible wood. It's called guayabillo.
And is it from this area?
They had like up in the mountains, they had these areas where they can cut and grow back. So nothing is like cut down and leave it barren, you know? They grow them on the purpose of that. And then the palm, depends how much sun it hits them. You can keep them for 5, 7, 8 years, and then you have to change it.
I see.
And that is the biggest maintenance we have, you know, the roofs. And then all the wood floors are like beautiful wood from the area. It's very strong. So all the floors were cut here, put down here by hand. Chuck did most of the work. And it was all handwork, you know. There was no machinery.
And the casitas, they're open air. They're beautiful. It's just open, you know. But they're all throughout the forest, and there's no cars for sure going to any of them. But how did you place them? I mean, how many casitas are here now?
Like we have 20.
20, and they're all orientated and they're all situated. And how it was all jungle before. So how did you figure out? Like that's hard to imagine because you have to kind of clear a spot or.
Yeah. It was. When I walked in here, people would tell me, "Are you crazy? What are you going to do with this?" I said, "I don't know, but I love it." And everybody thought I was really mad, you know. And because it was 7 years, a long time. I would walk every day the land. I would just walk up and down and then I would find a spot, a little kind of mountain hill, and I would sit there, and I would say, I would love a house here. And because I lost my home, I was homeless. So somehow I was looking for my home all over the place. And I have like 7 planets in Cancer. So I love homes and I love creating homes. So every spot I sat, I thought, I want my home here. And then I would call Chuck and I would tell Chuck, can we do it here? He said, yeah, we can do it there. But sometimes you had to the spot was down there and you were up here and you crawl down and sit there and we were going to build down there. So I would tell you, how are we going to reach it once it's built? Oh, don't worry, we'll figure it out. Wow. And that's how we build all the casitas, you know? And that's why you see each casita has a different orientation,
Yes,
has a
totally.
different view.
Yes.
And I wanted privacy. I didn't want people to see each other. I wanted open showers where you could feel very secluded and quiet. And that's why I love the land, because the land geography is very incredibly set. So I just chose the spots where I felt I want my home here.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And then the size was important for me. I didn't want little casitas. I want space. And I want people to feel super spacious in there, where they could really sleep and feel nice, and that the showers would be super comfortable. And with nature in front of you. And that's why we close them with these beautiful gauze curtains, because some people like to be more enclosed.
Yes.
And some people like it open. But you
Right.
never feel exposed and kind
Vulnerable.
of vulnerable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a coziness.
You've mentioned at different times in different talks that there was some dreams and kind of visions you had, and it was a while ago, but panthers were in this area at one time, and how much of that, were there moments, were there places and times where you woke up, you're in the forest with all these sounds? Because I have incredible dreams here. I know you,
Oh, yeah.
probably everyone says that, but
Yes.
I can't imagine what you must have, in just living here. Can you talk about that sort of subconscious part of it? I'm just curious, what were some of I'm sure there were so many of them, but.
You know, the most fascinating thing, I grew up in a very special family. My father had a lion, 2 pumas, an ocelot, where I grew up. And they were in the garden. They were free. I could walk to them. So I grew up with big cats. And I loved them. And I grew up in a place that was full of toucans and macaws. And so I was very oriented to birds and animals. So that was in me already. So when I came here, jaguar is from this area. And Cerro del Mono, which is right next to us, is where the jaguar is born. And since there was no people here, the jaguars would come down and you could hear them.
Oh my God.
You could hear them, And
Really?
yeah. And I was never concerned because I was kind of close to these animals already. And then when I brought the shaman to bless the land, and that he told me that he sat all night and he had a jaguar next to him, telling him that I had not asked permission to be here. And that really shook me up,
Oh, interesting.
Because I never asked permission to be here.
Yes.
And these animals are their kind of guides and protectors. So the whole jaguar, cats, I'm very related to them because of my childhood. And then I come to a place where they are there, and then a jaguar tells me through a shaman that I have not asked permission to be here. And then we're living here, and Chuck was living here, and we could hear them coming by and then going back into the mountains. So I tell you, it's like, how can I had...
What a conflict for you.
Yeah.
How did you resolve it?
I didn't. I just never felt I had to be concerned about it, I just went on with my life. And I've been here for so many years. I had a lot of experiences with animals, and I never had an incident that I would be threatened, or snakes or anything, because I feel we built in a way that is not intrusive, and we don't touch the grounds. Everything's above the ground, and it's quiet. So there's no threat.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing yoga in my house, in my terrace, the birds, the chachalacas come and stand right there on the terrace with you, because there's nothing threatening them.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why, to me, this is a sanctuary. And I was brought into a sanctuary that I had to adapt to it, and it was never a question of is a jaguar going to be in my door next morning?
Right, right.
I was more afraid of humans than
Yeah.
jaguars, actually.
Yes, right, right, right.
So this is,
The the energy that I feel here, it's feminine
yes,
in a very powerful way. The moon and
yeah.
can you speak to that a little? I can't, but I
It
feel
is.
it, and it's I don't know if feminine is the right word, but it has that.
It really does, because Tulum was a very male, hot energy. And then I went to Oaxaca, and first I wanted to buy something in Oaxaca.
Ah,
And I said, no way. It was too rough, too masculine, too
yeah,
threatening.
yes.
I just never felt easy going there in my energy.
Hmm.
And when I came to this part of the world in Nayarit, and I walked the land and I walked the jungle, it just, the femininity, the softness, the easy, the gentleness, even in the storms, they're powerful, but they're gentle.
Yes,
They're not like
yes,
I'm going to be killed by a lightning rod, by a lightning
yes.
or by a. There was something, and you feel it really all the time. You feel this femininity. And there's been shamans coming here that tells me people don't feel afraid here. There's a mother energy. There's a
It's a
softness.
it's a healing energy too,
Yeah,
right? Like this energy is so needed
yeah.
in this world. Um,
That's why I tell people, allow anything that comes up. If you want to cry, cry
yeah,
as much as you want. Don't hold
yeah,
back.
yeah.
The land takes everything. You
Mm,
can really allow it. And the shaman, who came from Peru, told me one day, people would open up without they knowing they're opening up,
yes.
because the place allows you to open up.
Mm,
It just happens. You don't need to do an effort, and do
mm-hmm.
20 times breath work to open up.
Right.
It
It's
just happens.
that's so feminine. It's
It just happens,
yes, yes.
And I see it's been almost 20 years of people going through a lot here. And you never feel a burden, you never feel a heavy energy. It
Hmm.
just like really goes back in, and
Yeah.
it brings you back into,
Mm,
it just takes the stress and the heaviness.
yeah. Yeah. It's remarkable. If if you're thinking, the future and where this is, you've made this and you're here and everything, you're attracting more and more the right people who need this place. And what is the thoughts? Do you think about the future? This will perpetuate, I'm sure, but how
Yeah.
is that? I speak a little bit about the land preservation work you're doing and all that. So it's powerful to make something, but make sure it stays,
Oh, yeah. This land is now worth millions because it's a 12-acre land, and all around us it's super expensive. And of course, you have a beachfront, and this could become like an incredible high-end homes. To me, this will never be touched, because it's sacred. It's given a lot to people. We need it. We all need it.
Mm.
Younger generations need this
Ugh,
immensely.
yeah.
They really need to come to be here and experience something that is very hard to experience. Everywhere else, there's lights, music, noise, horror. And it's already written down, that I'm going to die. It's going to be a moment that I have to let go. This place remains. And if the people I'm living here continues, fantastic. And this is my will, that
Mm.
other generations, that Haramara could remain like this. We keep putting all the money necessary to maintain it, to make it better, to make it solid. That's why now we have become a federal protected area,
Hmm.
which is untouched. Nobody
Hmm.
can come and knock it down and build a building.
Yes, right.
So that's why I did it. We've been working for 20 years to preserve not only this land, but all the lands around us. And Soko and the people that work with me, the younger people, Enrico, that's my nephew, my other nephew, Santiago, they know that this is going to go on and it's going to continue. And if it comes a point where it doesn't happen, well, the jungle can swallow it back and go back to nature and keep it, you know?
Right.
And this would be a sanctuary, and this would remain the sanctuary. And this is really, I find this very, very important.
Yes.
You know, because people are losing touch with what this is.
Yes.
And that's super dangerous, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. And they're losing in touch with themselves.
Yeah.
And this solves both those problems.
Like Krishnamurti said, you know, which I learned a lot from him, he said, if you lose touch with nature, you lose touch with humanity. And what I feel is that as soon as people come and be here for a little bit, they start really coming together and things happen.
Yeah.
The heart comes out, you know.
Yeah.
It's just there. And beauty is that, I feel.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Sajeela, thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
just so moving.
Oh, no, thank you. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. And to anybody that's listening. And
Yeah, and you guys, thanks so much for being here. And obviously, we do put these on YouTube, and this is a visual as well as an auditory place. You're probably hearing bird song and things here, but this is viewable. If you click in the show notes, you can see it on YouTube. And I'm going to go around and take some photos and some videos of this remarkable place called Haramara. You guys, thanks so much for being here. Sajeela, thank you. Really.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for coming back. And I love your energy field that you create when you're here.
Wow.
It's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, thanks for being here.